And
There
we
we
are
go.
live. All right.
We are
Aloha,
live.
beautiful. Yeah, we are live. Aloha, beautiful beings of light. Rick Ely and Clifford Starks. Thanks for tuning in to Pono Quest. Um, I'm kind of excited to learn from Clifford this morning about an unshakable faith. Here's a guy who goes nonstop. He never stops. He's always alive and awakened the greatness within. He comes out every day, leading the way. Um, Clifford, good morning. Thanks
Good
for being
morning.
here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Always appreciate your energy. Always appreciate being part of the Pono team.
Bro, you are Pono. You're the epitome of Pono, man. You lead the way. You're the ultimate go giver, and as we do that, as we lead by example,
Thank you.
the rest of the world follows. Right? Is that true?
I agree. Lead by example and the rest of the world follows. I love that statement.
Clifford, you do have an unshakable faith. You want to describe it, and I'll step out of the way and let you just describe it, and I'll listen. I'll tune in and pay attention.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask. Always here.
Wonderful. So this is a live broadcast, and if you've got any questions, if you're not in StreamYard, we are using StreamYard. Um, you can just allow StreamYard to. How does that work? Just allow StreamYard to
Yeah,
access. You give StreamYard access, and then you can contribute. Your comments can be contributed in the stream. Otherwise,
yeah.
we're just seeing them on Facebook, uh, or we might not see them at all. So
Mm-hmm.
please make this an interactive journey. That's why we're here. We're not doing this to be, on an island. So I'll go ahead and step out and participate, please.
Awesome.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
All right, aloha.
So, yeah, thanks for that introduction, Rick. 100% appreciate it. And this is actually my fourth principle. And as I've gone through my journey, it's the simplest one, but it's the most powerful one and the most impactful one because it's kind of the fuel for everything else. And what I say about life is it's easy to do right when things are going right. It's a lot more difficult when your life just isn't working in the way that you want it to work. And so that's what having unshakable faith can do for a person. Now, when we're speaking unshakable faith, it is also about how do you practice having unshakable faith? Because it's one thing to say to have it. The question is, what practices can we incorporate and put into our process? Because too often people practice having faith when they need it the most, instead of practicing having faith early and often. So when you need it, it's there for you. And so I'm going to take you through a couple steps that you can use for faith building. And one of those steps is as simple as your frame. Now, what does it mean to have a frame? So a frame would be an example of how you feel, how you're responding, how you're acting to a situation. People can let people dictate their frames. For instance, if you're around a boss or a superior, you may have an inferior frame, possibly. You can also have a superior frame if you feel you're better than someone in a particular subject or area. And what I do is practice understanding having this frame that can stick no matter what. So when are you at your best? When do you feel your best? When do you show up completely? Show up in a way where you're going to give your 110%. And ask yourself this question because everyone's different. People may feel a childhood experience has made them feel that they could get through anything. Some people may be 20, 30 years old, graduated from high school. That might have been the highlight of their life. Doesn't matter what your highlight is. It just matters that you have one. And when you can think of that highlighted moment, take that highlighted moment and anchor it in. Anchor it in during good times, average times, and terrible times. So, how do you go about doing that? Well, if you have this moment, right, that takes you into this frame of you can do it, go into a negative situation where you do feel uncomfortable, where you don't feel like you're at your best. An example could be public speaking. I know a lot of people get really, really nervous about public speaking. And if you can reframe it, life becomes a lot easier, a lot faster. So if you're getting ready to speak in public, go into that space. Think of how you're going to feel. Think of what's going on in your head. Let it all in. Let it all in completely. And you might get a little bit sweaty. You might get a little bit nervous. You might get a little bit shaky. But focus on practicing in to going into that really, really strong framed, I've done this. And what you do is you find a way practicing, putting them together. Because when you can put them together, all of a sudden, you get closer to doing the things that you need to do. See, I go on passion. My whole thing is about being passionate. It's not to mean I'm going to be great at everything that I do, and neither are you. But it is to say this: if you know you can give 100% in something, you can stretch into whatever you need to stretch into. And one thing we're really good at doing is overcomplicating everything. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I suck at this. Well, I'm here to tell you, yeah, you're going to suck when you first try something. But what Unshakable Faith does is it allows you to be able to take the actions that you need to take, even when you don't want to do them. Because that's the way it's going to be sometimes. You're not going to want to do something. But if you can take that frame, the frame of power, the frame of courage, the frame of belief, because you've had the frame before. You've just had the frame before because you got good at something. And so you forget all of that suck that you had to incur before. Suck comes and suck goes. And when you can just stay here, strong here, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters because you know you can act into whatever you need to act into. And just like any muscle, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. You get less stressed out with difficult events. And all of a sudden people are looking to you and saying, wow, you do things so effortlessly. And there's that piece where you say, if only you knew. If only you knew. Because you got to practice to become effortless in something. I've never seen anyone become effortless because they were just talented in it. And so knowing that, frame it in your power, in your strength, in your ability. Now, another thing you can do is a variety of breathing techniques. And there's one breathing technique called box breathing. And what this does is it just calms you down. It gets you back into a state of, okay, I got this. Because when we get so scared and nervous and freaked out, we can't comprehend as quickly. We get stressed out. We're nervous. We're shaking. And we can't do the things that we need to do. We get outside of our creative genius and we get too focused. It's almost like too narrow because it's that fight or flight freeze feeling that people have. And so what I want you to do is remember how much of a creator you are and focus in on box breathing. And what it is let's say you breathe in, you inhale for 3 seconds, you hold that inhale for 3 seconds, you exhale for 3 seconds, and you hold that exhale for 3 seconds. So I'm going to do that with you a couple of times. So we're going to go. So that's something you can practice. And like I said, practice it consistently. And this is why. When weird times come, when difficult times come, you will have that in your back pocket. And your body will remember that calm feeling that it gets. The knowing that, okay, things are okay. And let me get into my creative genius and figure out the steps that I need to take. Now, another process you can use to create unshakable faith is gratitude. Taking the moment to ask, what are you thankful for? It's so simple to do. But again, it's easier to do it when life's going our way. But if you can find something you're grateful for when times are tough, when things are difficult, that's when you really shine. That's when you take your power back. And so what I do with gratitude is I say, find 3 things to be grateful for every day you wake up. 3 things. And if life's getting really difficult, and I mean really difficult, it's happened to us all. You know, I've had the experience of dealing with people who have gone through major traumas, death, suicide, some other things I won't even mention, but it can get really bad, and it can get really bad really quick. And so what I say is, if you just have one thing, is there one thing that you have? One thing to move you forward, to give you your power back. Even if it's, if I'm still breathing, that means I can do something about whatever I'm in. If I'm still at least breathing, that means I have some ability somewhere. So I'm grateful for that. And when we can practice these regularly, momentum tends to be on our side. And when momentum is on our side, we have the ability and the power and the impact to change the world. Because I want to be around people who want to be very impactful on their journey. And I want to be around people who are soul-centered and looking to see how much they can do and see how much they can teach and guide others to do as well. And so when they see that during difficult times, this person can lead and stand and continue to go forward, even when they don't want to, it reminds others they can do the same. And that comes down to the practices. So I want to say 3 simple things, right? I gave you three takeaways. Reframing is 1. Taking a moment to do box breathing is another. Finding what you're grateful for is a third. And I want to remind you, we can say that's good and fine and dandy and not practice it at all. And some may. But when you need them, just remember, it's okay if you didn't practice them the first time. But know that you will pay for it if you don't. And I don't mean that in a cynical way. I just want to be completely upfront and honest and candid with people. Because oftentimes we focus on certain things and not on others. And I get it. We have busy lives and it can be difficult. And so what I say is this is an investment for you. When you do these practices, you are investing in yourself. We get our oil changed. We take care of our cars. We take care of our houses. Make sure you take care of you too. Thank you.
Hey, Clifford, that's pretty cool stuff there.
Thank you, brother.
I I couldn't help but think as you're describing the process of forgetting the suck, like you forget about the suck, right?
Yeah.
And I'm putting this into perspective with my physical routine in the morning.
Hmm.
Um, I hurt my knee a little while back, and
Yeah.
I whacked it pretty good, and I've been favoring it for a little
Hmm.
bit of time. The last couple of months, I've been favoring it, and what I realized in this is that I didn't do the deep work at the time of the injury or at the moment to when I
Hmm.
in order to make this to heal faster, right?
Yeah.
And why am I saying this? Because I've been limping along. Because I've been limping along. I pay it like the moments that I pay attention. Oh yeah, I'm moving a little bit incorrectly because I'm favoring this,
Hmm.
and we do this in life with our limiting beliefs, with our limiting thoughts as we're casting these things out. It's just the same. So tackling it at the moment that you've got it, then paying attention and then watching it uh, manifest, watching it. So let me just give you an example. Like I reach down, I touch my toes. Now I can go down effortlessly and hold my wrists on the ground, right? Because
Hmm.
I've become flexible. When I first started, it sucked so bad. Every time I tried to even get down, I couldn't even get the tips of my fingers to the ground, and it hurt. It hurt, and
Yeah.
it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was actually embarrassing because I couldn't stretch that far, and I was very self conscious of it. But
Hmm.
but as we grow, as we teach ourselves, as I get down on my and and do this every day, the exercise it becomes easy,
Yeah.
effortlessly, and as we have these conversations, they become easy and effortlessly. That it's not so hard anymore, and that's what I love about you, Clifford. Is like even when you're going through a really rough time, dude. A lot of
Hmm.
people don't know your wife's pregnant. She about
Yeah.
ready to pop. She about ready to pop. You got
Yeah.
a you got a puppy at home, and you got a little
Yeah.
kid, and your son never stops. He that
He actually speeds up.
you wind him up, and he goes. It's like
Yeah.
and we talk because we're friends. I mean, we
Hmm.
talk outside of quote unquote. We talk because we're friends, and I'm paying attention. I'm watching your life. I've
Hmm.
I've included you in my life because you have character. You
Yeah.
have there are elements of your character that I can identify with and that I want to emulate. That I know that I would be better. I would be a better human being if I could learn to do some of these things that right. I would be a
Yeah.
better human being if I could incorporate some of these things. I have an idea of who it is I want to be.
Hmm. Yeah.
Forecast, right?
Yeah.
I'm working into that. You come out with this unshakable faith and an unshakable strength at times when the rest of the world just wants to go crawl on its shell and you keep coming back out. That's the example, and that's why I continue to honor you. That's why I continue to lift you up. That's why I continue to point to you. It's not what you're saying, it's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You're being that which it is you want to experience. And so often in life, we can listen to people or give people our attention because we think that they have something shiny that maybe
Mhm.
we're attracted to. And if we just had that, and the reality is it's practice. You practice what it is you want to experience. Just
Yeah.
how you want to show up every day.
Absolutely.
Dude, you're a rock star. You're Pono.
Yeah.
How you've got your book. People can reach you in your book. This is your fourth principle, right? So
Mhm.
the principle of unshakable faith is your fourth principle.
Yeah.
Do you want to run through your six principles or your power six? Wanna-
Yeah. So all six principles are, the first one is the three C's. So it's almost like three principles bundled into one, but they all are very similar to one another. And that is having clarity, having certainty, and having commitment. So when you're clear on what you want and you're certain about yourself and your abilities and you're committed to it, that's the start. That's where we start every foundation, just like building a house. We got to have our foundation in place. And if the thought isn't there, if the feelings behind the thoughts aren't there, you're just not going to do it. Like, it's not going, or at least not as well. And so the second principle is having that effective plan. An effective plan, we're always adjusting this thing. It is our roadmap, and it is about us being effective in our planning, right? Like, anyone can have a plan, but a plan that's ineffective isn't really a plan at all. And oftentimes we're not planning to fail, but we do fail to plan and fail to plan effectively. The third is the passionate action. That one, I personally, it's one of my favorites just because everything I go after it with passion. And when I go after it with passion, I tend to stretch and grow into what I need to grow into. Like I said, my journey started off as, it's not as a fat kid. It was before then. And I'm gonna write some copy about that later on, but it really started with my biological dad leaving. And some people might get a little confused because I talk about how great my parents are. Well, my dad, I call him my dad, my real dad. He's not my biological. My biological drove away. And so was, people ask, how did you become a fighter? And I didn't fight out of hate for anything, but I fought because I wanted to be strong. I was a competitor because in my mind, I'm feeling everyone's going to leave one day anyway. So you better get damn strong and be ready. And I didn't lose my heart. The heart was still for loving others and loving people. But it was also, you better be able to stand on your own 2 feet because no one's going to stay around. And that was the lesson he taught me. And I went through 3 steps of, the world works against you, it's you versus you, and the world works for you. It's my personal journey, my personal process. And so my passionate action has gotten me through so much. And the fourth, which we just went over, the unshakable faith, yeah, yeah, because life's not always going to give you everything even when I say the word, life will give you what you give it, not right away. Like, you can't go like, all right, I gave to you life. Can I have it back now? Like, no, it's a process. And life's going to give it to you when it feels it's ready to give it to you. But you don't get to say like, all right, I'm going to do this for a week so I can get compensated for this, right? Like, no. The way it works, compound, everything's compounded. It's just the law of nature. And so knowing that, all right, if I just keep going, if I just keep giving, eventually my compound's going to show and it's going to rise exponentially. And that's where that faith comes in. The faith to say, I'm going to keep giving, and not giving in a way that's inconsistent, but giving in the same way, the same time, every single time. And
How
I'll go
you do?
over that. Yeah, I'll go over that one day, but it's the most powerful thing you can do. I've been married for 13 years and my wife loves me more and more. And it's a process of practice. It's not something that you just, yeah, like, I love you. I love you. Like, no, you have to feel it, completely feel it, or it's not going to work. And the fifth is responsibility. Look within first. And that's what was so funny in my journey. I just took a lot of responsibility. My dad, my real dad, told me to take responsibility in life when I was 6. And I was already taking responsibility because when my biological left, I was like, okay, what do you do now? Not everybody goes through that process in the way that I went through it. Like most people actually, and that's why that's the fifth step. That was my first step. That was the first thing that I did was I looked within and said, okay, what do I fix and how do I make things better? From what I've seen with the people that I work with, I just need them to feel good about themselves because they take that stuff and they get broken by it. Like a person will watch a family member drive away and say, oh, I'm so bad. Oh, I did so much wrong. Why did daddy leave? Mine was just different. Mine was like, all right, bring it, world. I'm ready for you. But I also have that love for people and knowing like, oh my God, everyone just wants love at the end of the day. And that's why I layer that step so low down the rung because I need people to feel good about themselves. I need people to love themselves. I need people to know, I know you're doing the best that you can. I know you're putting in the energy that you can. I know you're trying on your journey. You just need the right process, the right people, and the right environment around you, and you'll get to where you need to go.
I got a question for you on that one because
Mhm.
it happens when you have people in your court that say, "Well, you're not doing the best you can." No,
Yeah,
I don't believe that you're doing the best you can. In fact,
yeah,
I don't. There's a lot of people out there. They're not doing the best they can. Hell no, they're not doing the best they can. What are you talking about? You can
yeah,
do better than that.
yeah,
You can do better than that. What about those people? What about that?
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah. So I look at us as
before you answer that though. You might want
uh-huh.
to answer the sixth.
Okay, and the sixth is greatness within. And that's where you're firing on all cylinders. You're in mastery. And mastery is never ever completely done. It's organic. It's constantly moving. It's constantly learning, adjusting, figuring out new patterns, figuring out new ways to do things for yourself and figuring out new ways to do things for others. It's the ultimate leverage. And I call it one step closer to heaven on earth. We're looking to create heaven on earth. And the way we're going to do that is by doing that together. It doesn't happen with we're just going to end darkness forever and just shine. Like, no, darkness is always going to be around. And it's up to us to shine brightly, to call it out, to know, and to call out light too. And remind people, like, yeah, what that person over there is doing, do more of that. What that action was, let's avoid that action. That's a dark action. Because I think we're all light workers in one way or another. I think there's just a lot of people who don't realize that. And they're used to playing in the dark arts. I won't go too far into that. I'll reverse back to the question that you were asking. And I talk about I do think people are trying the best that they can. I think everything's very complicated, like extremely complicated. And like I said, the fifth step, taking responsibility. Look at yourself. Like just look at yourself. We're conditionable. Like that's what we are. We we're ultimately doing what, and again, I know everyone might have different religious preferences, but whether it God, universe, life, source, whatever you want to call it, we are ultimately still consistently creating without even realizing that we're doing it. We are creators consistently. We are doing what the ducks do. We are doing what lions do. We are doing what tigers do. We are doing what any animal does. We are living in our ability of choice. That's a very powerful ability to have, the ability of choice, and to say, like, you get to choose. And some people might say, you just said people are trying the best that they can. They absolutely are, because we are a part of what we are conditioned into. And the way you can decondition a person from darkness to light cannot be from giving them more darkness.
Mm.
The second I point at someone and say, you're not doing it right, you're just doing it wrong.
Give me
Get deeper.
give me a reframe, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm in the moment. I
Mhm.
am feeling like a superstar, and
Mhm.
I'm going on all cylinders. And out of the blue, it's like you can do better than that.
Mhm.
Where's a reframe? How do I reset my mind and go, wait a minute, or not even pay attention? 'Cause here's the other thing. Do you even hear that? Do you hear those voices? Do you hear that noise? Or how do you reframe it into something that is powerful, a powerful motivator for you? So,
Yeah.
can you give me an example
You
of a
can.
reframe of an example of something that you would do in the moment?
Yeah. So if I'm doing something and then I say to myself, I can do better,
Nope.
for an example.
These are not your words. These are the words of
Okay.
your family. These are the words of your friends. These are the words of the people that are in your corner or in your court, or you think that are on your side. And out of the blue comes, hey, you can do better.
Yeah. Always starts with a question. I say, well, what's better mean to you?
Mm. See, this is where it comes back to the curiosity. You
Hmm.
you are so curious. You're so interested in the other human being that you're interacting with, and you want to know, well, why is it feeling that? Why do you believe that? I'm Look, guys, pay attention, because Clifford's got an unshakable faith, which comes with an unshakable confidence. And the only reason that he can be at a place where he can ask those questions or be in a state of mind where he's curious is because he's not concerned with himself. He already understands the answer, the outcome. He knows what he has to do. He's on that track. He's on that path. He's naturally curious as to why you don't believe he's on that path at this moment and what he could do better. And he's genuinely wants to say, how can I do better? Okay.
Yeah.
If that's that perspective, how can I meet the objective of the one that's in front of me? How can I help that person to see what's already there? Because that's an unshakable faith. That's an unshakable confidence. Pretty magical stuff, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Clifford, I don't know how else to point this out, but it's through that consistency. You are consistent. You're consistent. Every conversation I have, I don't feel you falling off into uh, uncertainty.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the uncertainty is not what you're tapping into in the unshakable faith. The uncertainty exists somewhere else, but it's not right there with you in that moment of conversation when you're on point, is it?
No,
Discern.
like I look at because how I talk about that exponential compound, right? Everything I've done, everything I've been, every experience I've had, every conversation, every pattern I've learned, and every pattern I've learned to let go of, it's all a part of me. And when I can just say, that's a part of who I am, and I'm okay with that, that's where my power comes from. My power comes from true, utter acceptance. And when I can completely accept myself, I can completely accept others. Like that's the disconnect people have sometimes because they think acceptance of self means I got to love me and I got to just keep these people away. And boundaries are important and they are true, but it doesn't mean that you have to unnecessarily hate a person for being what they are. They're nothing more than their pattern. That's all
Mm.
they are. Like you wouldn't pet a scorpion, get stung, and be like, why'd you do that? Like you have an idea of why a scorpion will sting. And so if a person has a certain pattern and you know they have that pattern, you don't have to hate them for the pattern that they have. They just have the pattern that they have. You just don't want to necessarily be around that person.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you coming out and showing, leading the way. Let's see. I want to say this is Amber. Amber has got, I love that unshakable faith, unshakable confidence. Amber, thank you for showing up in full force,
Yeah.
even
Thanks
though
for
your
coming in,
comments are,
Amber.
yeah, she's on the Facebook inside the Pono Quest inside of our Pono.
Nice.
So thank you for participating. If you have any other questions before we close this for Clifford, please feel free. He's right here. He's accessible,
Yeah.
very accessible. And so, yeah, just feel free to answer. Otherwise, reach out to him, send him a message, direct message, and you can find him on his websites as well. But very, very interactive. Or go to um, his group, Awaken the Greatness Within. You will find daily inspirational messages. You can even find Clifford's YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube channel, some of these videos are amazing. They're just pumped. I love to listen to them just to get it stirring
Yeah.
within me.
Yeah.
Again, I come back, I pay attention to you because I know what it does for me, and it's purely selfish. I know that sounds really weird to say, but I really know who I want to be and who I'm surrounding myself with or putting in my corner so that I can be that.
Yeah. And I look at the selfish, this I don't know the right word to put it as, but it's the selfish light, I guess would be the best way to do it. Like we're
Mm.
all looking to get into our light. We all know we want something more, something deeper.
The thing I love about the conversations with you and my friend Steve and Dusty and Eduardo, there are moments like we're all human, right?
Mhm.
We're all human, but when you're in a place, you're in a relationship with other human beings that know you, that you've given permission to speak into your life. I can share my heart, share my thoughts without ridicule, and allow them to coach me. Allow
Mhm.
them to coach me in a way is phenomenal. Like so much. Like we're human. We don't see our blind spots. We don't know what we don't know, and unless we have surround ourselves with people that we can trust to,
Yeah.
and that's what this is all about. That's what Pono Quest is all about: creating the environment, creating the academy, the school, the backyard, if you will, the safe place to play with your friends. You come
Yeah.
in here, get what you need, and create the life you want. That's what it's all about. Thank you.
Creating the life you want. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for paying attention to Clifford. Clifford, is there anything that you want to say in closing before we?
Yeah, ultimately, I appreciate you all. I know we're all on our own journey. As I continue forward, and if you like what it is that I have to talk about, I will continue to share bits and pieces of my story as we go through the journey together. And then you'll kind of get to see like what makes a person become such an intense fighter and fight on the greatest stage on the planet in the UFC, and what makes that person love unconditionally. Because that is one thing that I've practiced and tailored and sharpened on the journey is unconditional love. I know you all have something special in you. That's why I talk about greatness, awaken the greatness within, because we all have it. We all have that light. We all want to shine. We all have a story that we want to get out there to the world. And I want to share mine with you, and I want you to tell me yours.
Well, thank you, Cliff. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody tuning in, spending time with us. Aloha.
Have a blessed day, everyone.